The 27-year-old washing machine at St. Mary's Rectory died last month. I went to put in a load and just nothing happened. And we obviously knew that day was coming. It was 27 years old. But when it's that age, you don't call a repair person. You call an appliance store and you get a new one. And so that's what we did. And now we have a new dryer and washer that are there, stacked one on top of the other. The journey to that, though, has been something else. They arrived one morning with the new stacked washer and dryer, and the trouble started almost right away. They couldn't get it in the front door. So the door had to come off the hinges. Then they brought it up the steps, and they didn't have a dolly. They just had straps that they were wearing. Maybe you've seen this before when people bring appliances. They were wearing straps. So they carried a 300-pound machine upstairs using these straps. And I've got to say, I was amazed at how hard they worked. They did the best they could. But they did hit every step on the way up. And chunks of the steps were laying there after they got to the top. After they came through the doorways, there'd be chunks, little crumbs of plaster, little crumbs of the trim laying there. And so when they brought it in, I gulped a lot, but I kept my composure, did some nose breathing, and then they called me in to show me how to use it. Okay, Father, we've got it all hooked up. We're going to show you. And we turned on the washing machine. Great. And then we went to use the dryer. Nothing. They said, oh, well, we'll just make a little adjustment on the back here. And they did, and nothing. So he turned to me and he said, I am sorry to say that this is a defective unit, but we do not have another one on the truck. You will have to call the store and arrange for this one to be removed and another one to come. And then I said, okay, I'm so sorry to hear that, but thank you for how hard you worked. And then they went downstairs and hung the door back on the hinges. And as they left and I closed the door behind them, I realized that it didn't shut right and didn't line up and wasn't able to lock. Isn't that just how life is? Ugh. And it reminded me of something I heard a poet say once. Life is like getting onto a boat that is about to sail out to sea and sink. So often that's how life feels. You just can't get any traction. You can't get ahead. It's always just piling up. And I think winter is the perfect time for us to hear readings like the ones we heard, because it always piles up, it feels, in the winter. Lots of gloomy days, but on top of that, one snowstorm after another. You can't shovel it fast enough. Just as soon as you get it cleared, then you find out, oh yeah, no, tomorrow we've got another forecast, and it starts all over again. And that's what we're hearing in the reading from Job. Sometimes life is, in his words, a drudgery. And he describes something that a lot of us can relate to. He said, I'm exhausted all day, but then when I lay down to go to sleep, I can't sleep. Can you relate to that? Exhausted all day, but can't sleep at night. I think a lot of us have had times like that. And I think when times are hard, we can get into a cycle that allows us to think that tomorrow will never be any better than today. It just feels like one gloomy thing after another. And that's how despair can settle in. We can start to despair. The way Job said it was, my days always come to an end without any hope. So these are strong readings. This is meant to get our attention. And it's important that we hear them, because all of us have times in life where this describes what we're going through. And sometimes it's the doldrums, like we might have in January or February, but other times it's harder than that. Father Anthony Legato is the vocation director of the Diocese of Albany, but that's not his only job. He also is the pastor of St. Jude's in Winenskill, which has a school, and St. Michael the Archangel in Troy across from RPI. If that sounds like a lot, you're right. He's got a huge job in the diocese. I don't know how he does it. His face is on that poster in the back if you want to check him out and you don't know him. He's a very dutiful, wonderful priest, ordained over 25 years. And he got COVID back in December, and a lot of us were worried about him and were praying for him. We were glad to hear that he was recovering, But unfortunately, his 90-year-old mother also got it. And right before Christmas, she died. And so I just felt for him. I think all priests feel when we have a family funeral, because on top of the grief, there's the terrible worry about how will I do presiding at that. And I knew he was nervous about presiding at his mother's funeral. So I went to the wake and I prayed for him. And at the wake, he said to me, just please pray for my sister, because she also contracted COVID. And she's doing better, but she's in the hospital. And I hate to say this, but last week I went to her wake. And I think the worst thing I could have said to him on that day, whether it's true or not, is, don't worry, Father Anthony. God will never give you more than you can handle. There's times that is just not the thing to say. Even if it's true, even if when we get to heaven we realize, oh no, that was true all along. There are times that is just not the thing to say, because it obscures something that Job wants us to hear and that the gospel wants us to hear, and that is that we are not in control of life. Life is bigger than we are. And there are times when things are going well that we can have the illusion of control. But bad times show us, oh no, we do not have this under control. When I was standing in line at that wake, I was standing next to Deacon Paul Kisselbeck, a great guy. And he said, when we were talking about what the Legato family was going through, we said, I don't know what to say to a family in this kind of grief. And he said, I just know that I'm not going to know if God will never give us more than we can handle. But he said, I know for sure that we will never go through something that God can't handle. Can I handle it? I don't know. But can God handle it? For sure. No matter what it is. No matter what. So we have to make a decision to turn our lives and our will over to God. Because only in good times do we have the illusion of control. In bad times, we know for sure. Can I handle this? Maybe not. But can God? Absolutely. That's why we heard in the gospel the story of Jesus coming to town and starting by healing Peter's mother-in-law, who immediately gets up and serves them. But then word spreads, hey, there's a healer in town. The Messiah is here. If you have a problem, come, he can help you. And then there's that remarkable line. Guess who came? All the people with big problems, all the people with major issues, the entire town. Did you catch that? The entire town was at the door, because everybody is dealing with something. A lot of you know that before I was a priest, I was a teacher at St. Pius X school in Loudonville. And Loudonville is one of our most affluent suburbs of Albany. It's a really lovely place, tree-lined streets, and a lot of people of means live there. And I had 140 students a day in my classroom. And a lot of them were the children of really successful people. But I can't tell you how many struggles they had. And as a young teacher, I thought to myself, man, Loudonville, there's a lot of people struggling here. This poor town, it's got a lot of struggles. Then I got ordained and I was assigned to Oneonta. A lot of you know Oneonta, lovely town. A lot of you might have had friends or loved ones go to college there. It's beautiful. But I met so many people in pain, and I thought, oh man, Oneonta, a lot of people struggling here. Then I got transferred to Ravenna. You know the answer. Beautiful people, wonderful town. A lot of people struggling here. And I'm learning that is how life is. All of us are going through stuff. And that's why it's so important we hear that gospel message. The whole town came to the door. And what did Jesus do? One by one, healed them, restored their peace of mind, drove out their demons, walked with them, helped them, one by one. And then when he was done in that town, he said, now let's go on to the next. Because one by one, he wants to help us, aid us, change our lives for the better. Only because of God can we face the struggles that we have. There's a saying that I absolutely love and have found to be so true. In life, You either let go and let God, or you hold on and get dragged. We either let go and let God, or we hold on and get dragged. So when I think of the Legato family today, and I'd invite you to please pray for them as they go through these losses, I think of people going through hardship that must make them feel like Job. But as I look around this assembly, I see people who are going through major things right this minute. There's people sitting here right now, and so many of you at home going through major sorrows, major losses, terrible griefs, awful health concerns, financial problems, worries about the future, relationship issues, so many. And that's because we're all part of this family. If you're in struggle right now, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It could be that a choice needs to be adjusted, that's for sure. But what we're talking about today is those things that we have absolutely no power over. We can't change them on our own. There are many things that we may not be able to handle, but we have to remember that there is nothing in life that God can't handle. You know that washer and dryer that I told you about? We called them and they took it out and they brought another unit in, and that one didn't work either. And then we had to call an electrician. And the door still isn't right, and it's still all bungee corded up. But I don't need to tell you anymore, because you probably have a story that can top it. We all do. Because guess what? There's many things in life we may not always be able to handle. But there will never be anything that God cannot handle.